Whoa!
Be. You are victorious!
My minions!
Brah! We'll meet again.
Whoa. When that happens, I feel like I'm gonna fall down. Let's begin! Skyworld is an RTS game that is centred around a circular table. The main aim is to take over territories and finally capture your opponent's castle. The game can be played with a DualShock controller or 2 Move controllers. The best way to play is with the moves, as it allows for a more natural gameplay experience when navigating your way around all the menus. The only problem you will face with them is if you are playing seated, as it can be a bit tricky to rotate the table around without your legs getting in the way. You can adjust the table's height, but ideally you want to be looking over the battlefield, so it can be a bit fiddly while seated. The first mode we're going to look at is the main campaign, that has 8 missions for you to beat, and you can play each one on an easy, medium or hard setting. When you first start a game, you will want to place each of the game's menus around you. Doing so is incredibly simple, and it really feels like your own little command centre when you are finished. At first glance, all the menus can be intimidating, but the game eases you into them during the first mission, and after that, you really have no trouble rushing around them. The game heavily revolves around collecting resources, which you can get by placing down buildings on circles on the board. For them to function, you will need to place a worker down on top of it, and you do have a limited amount of these. You can place a mill down, which gathers food, a stone quarry will gather stone, an iron mine will gather iron, and a magic tower will gather magic. These buildings only gather their resources after each turn is played. You simply end your turn by pushing a button. To actually move around the board and take over territories, you will need to spawn a general, which is done so by upgrading your castle. Upgrading your castle, like many other things in the game, requires resources, so you always need to be checking your resource amounts. To move your general around the board, you simply pick him up and place him in a new spot. It really does feel like you're playing a board game, especially as the generals are static and look almost like a toy. To actually take over another part of the board, you will need your general to build a tower. This once again costs resources, but doing so allows new places for you to build on. These new places may even come with resource benefits. For example, a new spot may give an increased amount of iron, so if you already have an iron mine placed, it's best to destroy it and rebuild it on the new spot. You really are constantly rearranging things around the board as you slowly get closer to your opponent's castle. You even have to give some thought about your general's placement, as when they are near a building, they also increase the resources that are gathered from it. Obviously, you're not the only one after these territories. Your opponent is also taking over places on the board and looking for the best spots to get an increase in resources gathered, which means you will eventually come face to face with one of their generals. When you meet one, a battle will take place and the board will flip over and only one general will come out alive. This is where the main combat in the game takes place, and it's of a more free-flowing nature overall. The main aim is to destroy your opponent's castle, and you do this by having units walk across the battlefield and then attack it. In your hand you have battle cards. Each one requires a certain amount of mana to play. There is so many different units you can play. Swordsmen, archers, battering rams, and even magic that you can cast for an area of effect on the battlefield. Instead of taking turns like the main board, as long as you have enough mana, you can play a card at any time. Certain units are more powerful against other ones, so you're always checking the battlefield to see what your opponent is playing and whereabouts they have positioned them. And because cards appear in your hand in a certain order, the more you play, the more you can start to second guess what your opponent may do next. Positioning plays an important part here too, as not only do you have a castle to protect, but 2 towers as well. If these are destroyed, it makes it easier for units to reach your castle, and if you pass over an air attack circle, flying ships will attack your opponent. This combat system really is fun and exciting. The more you play, the more you learn about each unit, and it's so satisfying to get a good combo of cards down that really turns the battle in your favour. Like when you have a couple of units next to each other and you release a charged area of effect spell, which increases their speed and damage momentarily. It really can be devastating for your your opponent. Now these battles you will want to come prepared for, otherwise the fun will turn into frustration, as you know from the very start of the battle that you will have no chance at victory due to your opponent having more powerful units. You upgrade your units on the main board by selecting the blacksmith. Even accessing this place is very well made, as you must pull down a lever. Here you can use your resources to upgrade each unit up to 3 times, and it really is a good idea to keep doing so as you move around the main board. Not only can you upgrade units, but you can also research new ones to use in battle. As you progress through the main missions, new units appear here that can be researched, which does change the battle system up slightly and gives you something to look forward to each time you start a new mission. This helps to prevent the combat from becoming stale, especially considering you can keep upgrading your castle, which spawns more generals, resulting in battle after battle if you don't quickly take over territory. The more territory you own and buildings you have, the easier it becomes when playing around with the throne room options. Here you can change the amount of taxes your workers have to pay and how much food they receive. A bar at the bottom shows how happy they are. The better off they are, the more workers you can place down, but the sadder they are, the less workers you have. It really comes down to a balancing act. Like all good RTS games, some of the campaign missions have different goals to complete, such as a monument you must build before your opponent does. The actual board layout can change the way you approach the game too. One board may only allow you to move one way around it, and others are more free and allow you to go either left or right. The boards are visually different too, such as one in the style of a jungle and another as an island. Graphically, the game does look stunning. It's very crisp and sharp, and detail is absolutely everywhere, and it's actually one of the more impressive worlds I've seen through the headset. Every interaction is incredible, and everything is presented beautifully. The cards have depth inside them. You can smash enemies' buildings with the hammer when taking over territories, and when you finally beat your opponent in battle, their castle explodes in slow motion. Once again, everything really does look stunning. The game does come with a few modes of play. You have the campaign, skirmish mode, which allows you to play a match on any of the tables, and then you have online multiplayer for 2 people. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to find a match when doing this review, which is a real shame, as I can imagine playing against someone would be so much fun, especially when engaging in the combat mode. So what I'm going to do is, if anyone wants to play a match online, join the Beepsters community on PSN, and we will try and get a little gathering for it, and a few matches going. The game really does deserve it. You can also change your avatar for online matches. There's actually quite a few to choose from, although glove wise, there is really only 2 designs. The game will likely take around 7 to 8 hours to beat, but this will depend on how many times you fail a mission, as doing so will result in you having to restart the whole mission again. Luckily, you can save your game at any time during a mission, which is great considering some can take around an hour to beat. Trophy wise, it is a great list, but to get the platinum, you're going to have to really invest some time here. You get a trophy for beating each of the campaign missions, and there's even one here for finding hidden ducks in each of the main levels. Having another reason to really take in the detailed sites of each table is very welcomed. The main noteworthy ones here though are for winning 50 skirmish battles and winning 25 battles. That 50 skirmish battle will likely be off-putting to some, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure if winning 25 battles is tied to the multiplayer side, considering there are trophies tied to the other modes. If it is multiplayer, the low server population could obviously make it a trouble one to achieve. This game is by Vertigo Games, who also brought us Arizona Sunshine, and although Arizona was quite a high quality game, the presentation in Skyworld far exceeds it. I was really astonished with how detailed the world is, and they have absolutely nailed RTS menus for a PSVR game. I honestly can't praise the layout enough. Now, I'm not actually a massive RTS gamer. I have dabbled in the past, but it's never been a genre of game that I've overly enjoyed. But Skyworld really did change that, and one of the main reasons was because of how fun the combat is. It's certainly easy to pick up and play, but because of how each unit reacts with one another, there is quite a lot of depth here. Overall, this is the best RTS game out on the PSVR right now, and it's going to take a lot to beat it. I was quite intimidated by it at first, as it looked like a lot of systems to get used to, but after the first mission, it really does all fall into place. It's certainly a game that a fan of this genre absolutely shouldn't miss, and even if you have always been interested in getting into this type of game, this is the perfect starting point.
Yes! That's what you get!
We'll meet again.
This is a very high quality game, and it really is the complete RTS package that you can currently get on for PSVR. Don't forget to check out the Beepsters community on PSN, and we will try and get a few online matches going. As always, if you enjoyed this review, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more PSVR content.